Okay, hello everybody. My name is James Dearsley, and welcome to the Midweek Marketing Mix. Christ, we're on our penultimate show before Christmas, which actually frightens me a little bit. Um, I don't know where the year has gone, but there you are. Look, for those of you who perhaps have not seen this show before, let me just give you a little sort of a gentle introduction as to what this is all about. So the Midweek Marketing Mix is about compiling all the latest news or tips and tricks about the marketing world. I generally try to get you the best guests which are coming on that perhaps you already know of already. So we don't have to waste time necessarily with all the introductions about who these people are. So just so you know, we have got a great panel. We've got Grant LeBoff here from the Sticky Marketing Group. Massive author throughout many different books. Well, you're now three book, Grant? I can't remember.
3 books at the moment.
3 books, yeah, Christ. So there you go, that's Grant for you. We've got the marvellous Jim Banks, who we had on previously for about 2 seconds on a midweek marketing mix, and then it all got jumbled in Cyprus and he couldn't join us. So we've got him talking about the PPC world, so thanks for Jim coming on. We've got Jason T. Weiser joining us talking about the podcasting world, and hopefully at some point we'll have Jay Bear coming on as well, talking about his latest book, which is coming out in the Utility series. And so that's what we're here. We're talking about different segments of marketing all put together in one show to hopefully give you the latest tips and tricks. A bit of housekeeping for you. We use a Showcase app, which means that you can get as much information as you could possibly glean from this show with all the extra links and tips that we're putting out there. So if all of you guys are watching this in Google+, you will get it automatically. If you are watching a recording, please do click on the Be Part of the Conversation button, which is, I think it's on one of these sides down here on the diagonal, and that will open up all the links that we're perhaps referencing, or if you guys just want to see who these people are who we're talking to. So that's a bit of housekeeping out of the way. Do please answer your questions. If you are here live, click the little button above your head, which is a little square with an arrow in it. Lee Rickler, I know you're here, so that's great. You're in, so you can tell everybody how to do it. But if you want to ask questions and queries in the comment stream, click that little button in a square with an arrow in it and fire away any questions that you might have. So look, let's go straight off with Grant. I want to bring in you sort of straight away, Grant, because I know you've got a plethora of stuff to get through in the social media world. There's some pretty cool stuff happening out there. So can you lead us off? What's going on?
Yeah, let me tell you a few things. So firstly, Facebook are kind of up to their normal tricks again. They've announced that they're limiting the number of promotional page posts in the newsfeed. They're going to be starting that in January. So what really that means is that brands are going to have to pay to share their content with followers. I mean, this has been going on for a long time in any case, but they've kind of stepped it up a bit. No doubt, I'm sure this will upset brands that have invested in building a following. I mean, Coca-Cola spring to mind. They've now got 90 million followers and going to have to increasingly pay more and more money to talk to those. Is that it's going to be a better experience for the newsfeed, the users themselves in the newsfeed. So that's what Facebook's reasoning is for doing it. Essentially, I think it's quite amusing because Facebook are trying to become a more and more of a video platform as well, which means that, you know, in some ways Facebook is turning into a sort of giant online TV. You can see more and more people are going to have to pay for video platform, pay for video advertising. So it's an interesting development. It's not really a surprise. You can argue it either way. I know a lot of purists get very upset because it used to be free and now it isn't. But that's kind of where we are. But the other thing that Facebook have done, which is really interesting, is they've announced Facebook at Work. They're going to be launching Facebook at Work. It's going to have a newsfeed, groups, and messaging capabilities. But essentially, it's going to be entirely separate from personal accounts, and it's going to be used as an enterprise tool. They're going to have collaborative tools on it to work on shared docs and all those kind of things. So essentially, Facebook look like they're going directly up against Google, against Microsoft Yammer, Salesforce Chatter, IBM, and those kind of platforms. So it's a really interesting development. I think it's a natural one for Facebook to take. I know that we get asked lots. James, you and I were on a panel not too long ago, and we were asked about keeping social and work separate on Facebook and how you do that. So in some ways, Facebook are directly answering this challenge, but also giving lots of other facilities for people as well. So I think it's an interesting development. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. I think they might be onto something with that. So I'm quite interested to follow that. Meanwhile,
I do
yeah,
wonder
sure.
whether or not our Facebook, I mean, they are obviously, this lack of promotion, it almost seems actually a juxtaposition really, because in one way they're saying we're going to cut out all the promotional tweets in your newsfeed, which I find interesting because that's obviously a way of getting the public sort of back entwined with the Facebook side again. They're not going to get pushed, all this crap in their newsfeeds, which I think is a particularly good way. But then on the other hand, they're really pushing this Facebook for business side of things. So they're sort of giving with one hand and taking away with the other from businesses. So it almost, I don't know, it seems a little bit of a push-pull thing going on.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of, I mean, what Facebook is saying is they want to enhance the user experience, and I don't doubt that. I'm sure that's the case. I think the other side of it, of course, is that it allows Facebook to monetize the platform more and more, which is obviously their main objective. They've got the stock market to answer to as well now, and I think that's the whole thing about the Facebook for Business as well, because obviously you can see that massive amount of monetization. If that gets taken up, there are so many opportunities there. So call me a cynic, but I can see them using.
We'll see. We'll see. All right. Well, that's an interesting one. Okay, good stuff.
So that on the other side of as it were, is Twitter. And they're struggling a little bit to engage users and get more users. The amount of people joining Twitch has slowed immensely in recent times, and again, they've got a stock market to answer to. So they're doing they've made lots of announcements in the last week to try and re-engage users and get new users on board. They're adding a while you're away for when you haven't had the app for a while. No one knows how long you wouldn't have used it for before you get this while you're away with the most important tweets. The idea of it is that the most important tweets that you've missed will rise to the top as a sort of engagement tool for you. They're also going to add a lot of location-based news and features. The idea is to make it a little bit like Foursquare in a way, where they want to be able to enhance location and allow people to tweet with location embedded in, and allow people to find tweets and engage with tweets based on their location and local businesses and things. So of course it's another engagement tool, and they're also talking about adding native video next year as well. So these are all ways that Twitter are trying to engage the existing audience, but also I think make it more interesting to a new audience, because I think their biggest issue they have right now is that people aren't signing up in the numbers of which the stock market would like to see. So I thought those were interesting developments. My favourite...
because there's been, I mean, in the last few shows that we've been having, there's been an awful lot of movement with Twitter. Playing songs directly, so you've got now big time artists out there releasing their songs into the Twitter sphere directly.
Absolutely.
You've got the ability to purchase things directly through Twitter, which they're saying this is quite a big thing here, which is suddenly you're not having to use your credit cards. It's a direct buy through Twitter and through the purchase cards. So they're obviously making a big play for this sort of stuff. And funny enough, from a social analytical side of things, I'm doing a lot of work in the data analytical world. I also noticed that this week Twitter are opening its archive of every single public tweet it's ever sent.
That's right.
I found that a fascinating one from a data analytical side, because Twitter notoriously is difficult on their API. They don't open it up. So from a data analytics side, you can't get past Twitter data to analyze. And I'm wondering, and I put some questions out there as to whether or not, from a social and data analytical side, as to whether or not if you've opened up your API, does that mean we can start going back and back and back and back and seeing sort of have the Twitter journey from a lot of sort of individuals and companies to really start to understand and mine into their data?
I mean, I think ultimately it comes down to you've got to, as you said, it's all about pleasing the shareholders. Shareholders are looking for revenue per user. They can't increase the users to increase the revenue, then they've always got to be more efficient with the users that they have. And obviously, releasing this Twitter data right back to the beginning is very much a case of those are more kind of page impressions that they can serve ads on effectively. So I'm pretty sure that they'll be quite heavily interspersed with ads as part of their goal to try and make more money.
That's what it is, isn't it? You're slave to your shareholders in the end, and for me, that's exactly where Facebook have gone. And like you said, Grant, in the presentation that we both shared on the panel, the discussing of this, and I think people have got businesses have lost a bit of trust in Facebook as to what's going. So I wonder whether or not Twitter are going to go down the same line. So we'll have to see what happens there. But I think we've got time for one more post on this. How are we getting on with this JetBlue stuff? I think you mentioned there was a few things that they've been playing around with this year.
Yeah, well, I thought this was quite interesting because I thought this was a nice thing to just raise in the social section, because I know that having been on shows previously with you, James, that it's kind of a latest news kind of section. But what I thought was interesting is that with social, people get very bogged down in platforms. They get bogged down in Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all the different platforms. But social's a mindset. And when people talk about not being able to make social work, it's often because the mindset's wrong. And the thing about social is you've got to let your customers be the heroes. You've got to let your customers take control. And a lot of companies are not willing to do that. And I just thought JetBlue had an interesting idea, because taking a plane to or from New York or whatever doesn't sound the most interesting thing in the world, and yet they've got this Fly It Forward campaign, which is about allowing passengers to tell their stories. So the idea is, if you had one flight that you could take, what would it be and why? And they're making the passengers the heroes. And they had some fascinating stories on some of the things that I saw. They had an artist that always wanted to exhibit in New York and managed to get there to do so. They had an amputee who was traveling for the first time and felt free again because she could actually get out of the house and get on a plane and do something. It was very, very interesting. But the point of the campaign, from my point of view, and something that I'd love to get across to people watching this today, is that whether the JetBlue thing really takes off, really takes flight, no pun intended, and really works. The point is that they're letting their customers play a central role. They're letting their customers be the heroes. And they're not the heroes, the customers are. And I think so many people, when they use social platforms, get this wrong. It's about them and it's not about the customers. They're not making the customers the heroes. They're trying to be the heroes, and that's why social platforms don't work. And I thought that was a nice story to highlight for people, just because is it the best social campaign ever? Probably not, but it just reiterates the point that I do try and make to a lot of my customers all the time, and people tend to forget sometimes.
Absolutely. I mean, what a great example of a customer-centric campaign. And funny enough, I tell you what, that's a second, and I really appreciate that, because it's an applied use of social, which is arguably what this show is also about as well, which is bringing the latest tips and tricks of what people are doing. And we saw 2 weeks ago what Taco Bell did with the blackout campaign.
Yes.
I thought was absolutely fantastic. And it was nothing to do with the customers whatsoever. That was just a classic bit of simplistic marketing, which went very, very well. They got a massive amplification of what was going on out there. You got these guys with the JetBlue stuff. And let's be honest, they are renowned for doing great social work. I mean,
Yes.
they are. They're a really quirky brand, which I think any of you out there who wants to understand how using social media, certainly follow their sort of their campaigns. It's well worth following. So, look, that's great. Grant, thank you ever so much for giving us a bit of an update on the social world.
Pleasure.
Just to bring in some sort of welcomes into the fray here. Certainly, Kath Dawson, it's a pleasure to have you here. A rare treat, by all means. So thank you so much for joining us. We've got in here. Who else we got? Christ, oh my word. We've always got Carmen, who geek dances all the way into this show. So that's great. Thanks, Carmen. Good to see you here. A point of note, Nicholas, if any of you guys are working on multiple monitors and you're using the comment tracker, which is what we use on this show, popping the video out works with multiple monitors. Once again, if you want to pop the video out and put comments and questions to us here, go above my head here, and there should be a little square with an arrow in it. Click that, and it takes the video out. On the other hand, if you hate the Showcase app, which I've got here, by all means follow Lee. So sneaky tip. Click the 9 square at the top of the page and deselect Showcase app. Don't tell me. Thanks, Lee, as always. But that's great. I never knew that one before, so thanks ever so much for that. I'll remember that in there. So, look, that's a great overview for the social media section. So, Grant, fantastic. We've got Grant's profile in here and a link to his sticky marketing website as well, which is well worth a look at and a read. And Grant's books, I can't recommend them enough. And if you want more stuff about sort of how JetBlue are doing it, the sticky marketing aspect of what Grant talks about is exactly that stuff. So absolutely well worth it. Okay, let's move on. So Jim, we had you for 20 seconds last time. We've had you for nearly 20 minutes this time. It's a world record.
I know. It's I think the last time you had me on the show, I was in Cyprus and I was sharing my internet connection with a lot of goats and sheep, and I think it was obviously prime time for goats. So unfortunately, I lost my connection and wasn't able to get it back. But I've got a reliable, fast connection this time. So yeah.
All right. Well, it's good to have you on here. And look, you're going to cover sort of the PPC world out there. So what's been going on out there, Jim? What's happening?
Well, I think it's like most things. we're dealing with Google, with Bing, and there's always a million and one things that happen. And because Google primarily is an engineering company, they're very poor at telling people about some of the things that kind of that they implement. They just kind of push it out and expect people to find them, and in most cases people do, right? But just again, if you look in the last sort of month or so, I mean, I'm really going to talk primarily about what I call the trifecta for traffic, right? Which is Google Tag Manager, Google AdWords, and Google Analytics. Because I think a lot of people now are, they're kind of getting to the point where there's only so much they can do with AdWords, and they need to try and find ways to kind of make their onboarding of information more efficient. I mean, I work for an enterprise client, and trying to get anything into the code base is really difficult. That's where things like Google Tag Manager come in, gives you the ability to kind of track things without having to go to the developers and say, hey, I need this tag put on for this, for remarketing, whatever it might be. And then obviously analytics, again, I think, we're moving into the realm of, we've got Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up, Christmas coming up. If you're involved in kind of e-commerce, it's a massive, massive time. I mean, there's a lot of people I know that do, 70, 80% of their revenue in this next sort of 4 to 6 week period in the run up to Christmas. So it's a huge time for that. And obviously, Google have been working on some of their solutions. They've introduced a new version of Google Tag Manager, much more kind of user-friendly in terms of how it looks. They're working quite closely with various partners to make it super easy to kind of get information straight into the system. Clearly, mobile is a massive thing in paid search now. I think, again, I think going back to what Grant was talking about with the kind of Facebook stuff, I mean, one of the things I find the biggest challenge for Facebook is that so many of their people are using mobiles now, right? They need to try and find a way to monetize their mobile audience, and really it's almost like people go to Facebook to look at pictures of cats and watch videos and comment with their friends, not to be interrupted with advertising. And on mobile, it's even more intrusive because it's a smaller screen that you're playing with, right? But Google have actually come out with a fairly new free program for mobile app analytics, and it's the fundamentals. So I think I've given you some links to kind of post in the event afterwards. Again, if you're interested in analytics and mobile app analytics in particular, they've introduced this new course that came out yesterday. Gives you all the insight on how you can kind of track mobile apps.
Actually, just on that, just so you know, in the showcase now, if you guys are watching live, it'll all be there now in terms of what you've just mentioned about the mobile side of things on there, Jim, what you've just mentioned previously there about the tag manager, all the new stuff, that's just in there. So, I mean, by all means, just reference anything of that, and people can click onto it if you want to, so that's fine.
Yeah, but I mean, one of the things I find most interesting now when you look at sort of advertising, because a lot of the things that you do in PPC, it's not so much what you do, it's what your competitors do and how you fare against them, right? And I think one of the biggest problems that you see when people are buying keywords is they let their ego take over, and sometimes they just kind of get in the stupidity of like a bidding war, right? So you end up in a position where somebody goes, I'm going to bid $1, somebody goes, I'll bid $1.10, $1.20, $1.40. Before you know it, you're up in the $20 range, right? For a keyword that both of you could probably pick up for like 20 cents, right? And Google aren't going to go, hey, you know what, guys, you don't need to kind of be doing that. You could probably be number 1 and 2 and sort of comfortably pay a lot less. So what Google have actually come up with is they've actually come up with some reports in Google Analytics now that allow you to benchmark your performance against everyone else that they recognize from your vertical, right? So I think that'll be quite interesting to see whether you're getting more traffic from mobile than your competitors, less, whether your CPCs are more or less, right? Just to give you an idea to kind of benchmark, and they make it very, very easy to kind of understand that. You can look and it's all color-coded, so you can see whether your green is over and red is under, right? So it helps you to kind of focus your attention in terms of where you might be deficient in some of the things that you're doing. And then obviously if you're doing things well, then obviously it'll show kind of a lot more green.
So that's handy for all.
So again, that's... Yeah, absolutely. Some of the things that they're kind of working on now, they're doing a lot to try and make the kind of the automation of things, because I think one of the things that most advertisers struggle with is the trying to scale things, right? So, whenever something comes out, they need to kind of write a new ad, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to find ways in which you can customize your creative based upon things like a data, because Google for retailers, people that were selling products, they could sort of upload a data feed, and then you could customize. You could have dynamic sort of ads created for those. What they're now doing is they've extended it to other verticals as well. So they've got for travel, for hotels and other sectors. But it gives you the ability to create an ad using tokens, and then you don't need to kind of write a new ad. You just need to pull information in from a feed, right? So let's say you're selling, different types of, kettles. Rather than you having to create sort of a different ad for each kettle, you could have like one ad, and it would just sort of have the information pulled from your feed to give you the ability. You're effectively creating 15 ads from one ad.
Oh, Christ! So actually, for a change, they're helping us in one way. That's nice.
Yeah. Well, and obviously they're just trying to make sure that people can spend as much money as possible, and that's a way of them doing it, right? Otherwise, people might create one ad for one kettle and then go, oh, I'm bored with this, I'm going to move on to something else. I'm going to go back to playing Candy Crush, or go to Facebook. And then one of the other things they've introduced something what they call customized ads with real-time updates. So like if you're doing an event, so again, perfect for this sort of event. If you're doing an event where you've got sort of guests on, right, and you know what the schedule of your guests coming up is, you can actually create one ad with your guests, and then once the event finishes, then it'll basically change the name of the next person. So whoever you've got on your next midweek marketing mix, right, rather than you having to create a brand new ad, you could just say it's Jay this week and Jim, and then next week it might be Danny Sullivan and what have you, and it will automatically update the ad. Or if it counts down, it can count down to, let's say you're doing an event that finishes at the end of the month, right? It will just do a countdown, and it will count down, so there's 5 days left, 4 days left, 3 days left, 2 days left, and then finish, right? Whereas, before you used to have to create those ads and do them one with 5 days and then change it to 4 and then change it to 3. They made it so that you can actually do that. And you can also do it in different time zones. So like, let's say it runs out at, midnight GMT, you can make it so that it will run out at midnight GMT wherever they are, right? So if it's 7 o'clock in the evening, because they're on the East Coast, then it will finish at that point.
That's pretty cool. So what you're combining a level of contextualization which is relevant to the person and where they are, which is obviously for everybody. But also you've got that level of dynamicism. I can never say the bloody word. Dynamicism. Is that right? Dynamicism.
It works for me.
Yeah, well, just about. Doesn't work for me, sadly. Okay, well, that's great. So, they're really trying to help in that, and it makes sense because obviously the easier they make the experience, the more money they're going to generate as a secondary sell. I mean, they're obviously not pushing it down our throats to try and sell more sort of cost-per-click advertising, but it seems that they're sort of working very hard to make the entire process a lot easier.
They're great prospectors. They ultimately make the effort to give you the right tools to kind of do things to kind of spend more money, right? And that's the name of the game for them. They're giving you the tools to kind of spend more money.
That's good to hear. And what else is sort of kicking around? I know there's a monumental amount of sort of bits and pieces in the showcase there for people to have a look at. What are your sort of one takeaway point from those ones that people can have a look at? There's a lot of
the thing that I kind of hold dear to my heart. I've always had like a kind of I say a hate relationship with Google. I've worked with Google for a long time. Right, I hate the fact that I have to, but I do, and I kind of do it because I know I've got to do it, right? But for me, I've been trying. I love
that. As a PPC expert, you have a hate relationship with
I'm sure they hate
company you got to work with.
but one of the things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find more ways to kind of leverage Bing, because I think Bing's good, right? It's got to tie up with Yahoo. The traffic's always been good from there, right? So one of the things I've noticed is that Bing initially kind of took the view of, we're going to stand firm, we're going to allow people to run ads for tablets, mobiles, and desktops separately, right, that Google didn't do, right, but they've kind of caved in now, and they basically said they're pretty much mirroring the same platform that Google has. So one of the things that they've introduced auction insights, which Google have had for a long time, but Bing now have in the US, where effectively what you can do is if you're in the US, you can say, right, I want to see on a specific keyword, I want to see who are my competitors on that keyword, and it'll give you all of the URLs of the people who you're bidding against. It'll also give you information, so if you have a keyword that's an exact match and you want to see what they've matched it up for as well as that, right? It'll also show you those that are some keywords that you can pull out and push into your account as an exact match itself or as a negative. And again, they've been working quite hard on making better tools. They've updated their Bing Ads editor to allow you to do things in a more efficient and effective way.
I'll tell you what's quite interesting about that is obviously if they're updating their ads, but I mean only 2 weeks ago in the news section of the SEO bit was the fact that they got rid of the equivalent of the map cuts of Bing. So map cuts of Bing has gone. Dwayne, was that his name?
Dwayne, yeah.
Dwayne has gone from the search side of Bing, and yet they're putting this into the ads. So I mean that's telling us an awful lot about what maybe Bing's motivations are. I tell
you what was quite interesting. I mean, I went to PubCon and I saw Jay speak at PubCon. I think it was the beginning of October, and they had this sort of panel, and they called it the SEO mosh pit, and it was basically 15 guys, all the people that were on there had 15 years of experience. So it's guys that really kind of have been around the block. And one of the guys that was on there was Bruce Clay, and I think Bruce is credited with coming up with the term search engine optimization, which I think is a ridiculous term anyway. But what he said is, if you are doing SEO now, get good at PPC, right? So what he was saying is that the ecosystem on Google is changing, right? And the real estate for organic listings is shrinking quite significantly. One, by virtue of the fact people are using mobiles and tablets more, right? But also because they're now pushing things like Google Flights, and they've got carousels, images, maps, all that sort of stuff, and it's just pushing the organic further and further down the page.
Same thing is true in social.
Yeah.
It's very true. It's very true. Okay, Jim, thanks for your points on that. I mean, great insight as always. Sort of Nancy agrees with you. Leveraging Bing. Who doesn't have a love-hate with Google or hasn't? So yeah, I mean it's absolutely right on there. And I think that was a fantastic point to take away with. And just remind me of that. So if you want to get good at search engine optimization, get good at PPC, right? Was that your point?
Yeah. So like if you're doing SEO now, get good at PPC.
Yeah, what a good takeaway. And look, any of that information that you want to get from Jim's point, there's an awful lot of information over there. And Kath, thank you for pointing out. I think it means it's that way rather than that way. The Showcase app over here, there's an awful lot more there from what Jim's been saying. But talking about takeaways there for a second, I think I've got to bring up a couple of quotes here from your point, Grant, earlier on. I mean, Grant has this amazing ability to basically sort of put little snippets of quotes together, which I think just shows you as a speaker. But social is a mindset, not a platform. Absolutely right. Couldn't agree more with that. Lee, thanks for putting that up there. Another one here, Zara putting out, make your customers the heroes. Yeah, it's a yes, of course. I think we all have to remember what to do with all that. So just as a reminder, for those of you who've joined us, we're sort of halfway through now, the Midweek Marketing Mix. We've got a whole range of fantastic guys here talking about an entire range of marketing out there. So we've covered the social media bit so far with Grant. We've covered a PPC bit just now with Jim. So thanks, Jim, for sort of bringing that in. And look, I thought I'd now bring in Jay. Jay, I haven't met before. Thanks ever so much for joining us, buddy. That's really appreciated.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, fantastic. And I think, if I remember correctly, you're at home now, right? You've stopped your traveling and you're back at home.
I am temporarily at home for 3 weeks in a row, which is the longest I have been at home consecutively for 10 years. So I'm excited about that.
Wow. And in those 3 weeks, if from the Hangout I watched the other week, you're growing your beard and you're trying the Movember look, right?
I am using the Movember movement as air cover to let my personal hygiene slide. That's exactly right.
Well, Grant,
Viva the charity.
Your beard wins at the moment, Grant. I'm afraid you're right up there.
And it's kind of funny though that usually when I travel, right, I'm giving speeches in places like Vegas and New Orleans and Miami and San Diego, and now I'm home for 3 weeks and it's like 10 degrees and snowing. So I keep thinking like, surely there's a speech I could give in Phoenix right now where it's 75. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah, but that gives you an even greater justification for the beard.
That's a good point. And to put on some weight, I need to start eating like nothing but gravy and pasta from now on.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Well, look, Dustin's in the house, so excited to hear what Jay Bear has to say. So always good to see
Dustin, how are you, man?
So he's in. Hey, Jay. Hey, Dustin. Good to hear. Some great stuff that Dustin was sharing the other day about using Hangouts. I thought was a fantastic article from you, Dustin, and I think it was Wayne, I think, from memory. Sorry, my screen's a bit shaky. Okay, so let's just kick in. So, for those of you who don't, well, no, you must know Jay, Christ almighty. For those of you who haven't read all his books, follow the Utility series. There's an absolute winner out there, and I think we're sort of here to discuss a rather real estate orientated theme with your latest book, which has just come out. How long has it been out now, Jay?
10 days.
10 days. So going well so far?
Yeah, we were #1 in the real estate category on Amazon for most of those 10 days. So we're excited about that. It's the concept of the utility hardcover book that was released a year ago. It was a New York Times bestseller and all those kind of things. But it takes that same principle of focusing on help instead of hype and applies it distinctly to the real estate business, which is an important vertical for a couple of reasons. One, there's a ton of real estate professionals all over the world. And two, you can't fit a piece of paper between any of them in terms of how they do their marketing in most cases. They all do the exact same 1985 marketing tactics with let's put our picture on our business card and let's do some local print ads and have a website because we need to have one, but that website really doesn't give you any information. Just the majority of the real estate industry is doing the same things and not doing it particularly well. So my co-author, Erica Campbell, who works at homes.com, she and I thought the real estate business would be a particularly good candidate for the utility message, and so far they've been really receptive to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you and Grant sort of follow the same lines, and there's a wonderful quote in your book which I think everybody just needs to remember, and I think it's so simple, which was along the lines of, between helping and selling, there is a difference of only 2 letters. And everybody has to remember that it is about the helping, not the selling. And I think that was so critical in just a motivation that people need to remember.
It's difficult, though, because we live in an environment as marketers where everything around us is conspiring to make us think and act faster. All the technology, all the social, all the APIs, all the things that we talked about in the first segments of the show and that you talk about every week, all of that conspires to make us get really excited about doing stuff right now. I fall into that trap every day. But ultimately, what we've got to understand is even though business happens faster today, our customers still want to work with us in a slower, more contemplative way. They want to research and get comfortable with you before they make a purchase in many cases. And so one of the things that we talk about a lot in utility is that businesses need to embrace the power of eventually. Right? Understand that somebody becoming your customer at some point in the future is the goal, not necessarily somebody becoming your customer in the next 20 minutes. Gary Vaynerchuk probably says this the best. He has a line that he uses frequently that is, the problem with business today is that everybody wants to be a hunter and nobody wants to be a farmer. And if there's one thing that utility is, all 3 of the utility books, it's really a playbook for becoming a farmer.
That should be on the front of the book.
The problem is then it gets shelved in the agriculture section, which is not really where I want to be. But yes, you're right.
With a book in the agriculture section, it's
yes.
a bit far away, right? It's a long way away. But look, to bring up another quote, summarizing what you've just put on there, if you sell something, you make a customer today, right? And I'm afraid to say, and I'm going to bring in Dustin's quote in here, which is this: real estate marketing is an overall facepalm, right? A handful of real estate professionals I've seen are doing anything remarkable. And this follows this because I know, having been a real estate agent, I know that's the problem. They are literally saying, well, we need to sell something today, right? Because that is our customer. Mm-hmm. Then you go on to say, but if you help someone, you create the client for life. And I don't think, social media marketing is summarized in my mind by that entire point. And I always talk about it being a secondary sell. There is nothing. Social is all about building a massive base level, a massive platform of which to build everything upon. And it's your brand, it's your personal brand. And especially as a real estate agent, if you're going out and pushing everything to these people and saying, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this, they're not going to listen.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that real estate is challenged by as an industry is that it essentially exists because you have an information you're sort of holding on to information that other people want but they can't get, right? So, realtors have the ability, because they have training and a license, to actually fill out the paperwork in a transaction. They have access to the super secret MLS, although now MLS is primarily open to most people in the U.S. But at its core, right, this information asymmetry that powers the real estate professional's business is the same information asymmetry that made travel agents an actual business and made stockbrokers an actual business. Well, now everybody, not everybody, but many people are buying and selling stocks and securities and mutual funds themselves. Most people are booking travel themselves. And the natural inclination of information to be free is chipping away at realtors' ability to say, yes, you should use us. And so what smart real estate professionals are doing, and this is, I think, one of my favorite examples from the book, is they realize that they can't just live on the fact that they have access to some special box that nobody else has. They actually have to take the knowledge in their head and give it away. What I always tell people about utility is that if you teach better, you will sell more. It doesn't matter what business you're in. If you teach better, you will sell more. There's a guy in Tallahassee, Florida. His name is Joe Manausa. And Joe runs a brokerage there, and his specialty is representing sellers of homes that are between $200,000 and $400,000 US dollars. That's his sweet spot, right? If you have a $500,000 house, he's probably not your guy. If you want to buy a house, he's definitely not your guy, because he only represents sellers. Well, in that price range of $200,000 to $400,000, that's not a really expensive home, and so a lot of times those people don't have a lot of equity in their home either. There's not a ton of cash in it, so in that price range, it's very common for somebody to say, you know what, maybe I should just do this myself. Maybe I should do a for sale by owner so I don't have to pay the commission to the broker. They start doing the mental calculus on that, right? So what most agents would do is they try and talk people out of this, right? Why you shouldn't sell your house yourself. He does it the exact opposite. He has a 65-page free downloadable ebook on his website that's called How to Sell Your House Yourself. It literally goes step by step with checklists, charts, paperwork. Here's exactly precisely how to sell your house yourself without paying a realtor like him. But we interviewed Joe for the book, and he said, you know what my best source of leads are? People who download that book, because they get to about page 27 of the 65-page book, and they're like, holy crap, it's a lot of work to sell a house myself. There's no way I have time to do that. I need to call a realtor. Hey, who gave me this book? Oh, Joe. That's the first guy they call, and he just sweeps them up. If you teach better, you'll sell more.
Absolutely. You give to receive. That's the one thing I always like to say. You give to receive. And it's funny because the difficulty that I have sort of with the real estate market is the US market and the UK market are fundamentally different. So
yeah,
any
definitely.
of you out there who have a real estate
Australia
background,
too.
Yeah, Australia exactly. You've got, Jay's mentioned there the MLS system, which basically means that any broker can basically multiple list their properties on an overriding system, and people can start part sharing and everything like that because you are a broker. You instruct your broker. In the UK, we don't. We have companies, and a real estate agent is part of an overriding company. It's a totally different setup. But the point here is, and funnily enough, Grant will know this because he's talked at real estate conferences where I've talked more about the technology side. But as far as I'm concerned, the parallels in this book about real estate agents, and this sums it up from the utility side, incidentally, the parallels run across every single industry because as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter if you're a single broker in a tiny little town in Michigan or you're an agent in central London as part of a massive chain of companies. It's about that one thing. It's about that personal brand and giving something to somebody which make them want to deal with you. And companies here in the UK, especially in the real estate world, are starting to wake up to the fact that every single member of staff, the sum of the component parts of their team are more powerful than the entire brand. And
Absolutely.
when every agent gets it, the company gets it. I'm afraid it actually works the other way around, and it's very rare at the moment you're getting companies who get it and start distributing it out to the employees down there.
Yep.
But no, it's fantastic. And just actually as a point for anybody here watching, if you are using the Showcase app, I've actually put the Amazon.co.uk and Amazon.com links to Jay's book.
Thank you.
There, and that is actually directly to the utility for the real estate guys. But I know for a fact, having looked at it earlier on, it streams in. I mean, how many books have you now got in that series, Jay?
Utility, the hardcover, and then we have utility for accountants and utility for real estate. I think the next one is going to be utility for restaurants.
Wow. That's good. I mean, Christ, it's funny, isn't it? I mean, what you've picked up there, aside from accountants, real estate and restaurants, I mean, they are two fundamentally some of the most people-focused businesses that you could ever comprehend.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And the real estate book, we should say, is only $2.99 US, which is frighteningly inexpensive. And you can get on Kindle and Nook, and you can also get on your iPad or Google Play Store or whatever.
Absolutely. And I think it's about £1.50 I think I paid for it here in the UK. And
yeah, it's crazy.
Sheila's brought in, preach it, Jay Bear pre-ordered and have the book.
There you go, Sheila. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. I'm going to plug one other thing while I have you that I'm working on that I just launched last week, which is my brand new website, marketingpodcasts.com, which is a search engine for marketing podcasts. So if you love this show, which isn't a podcast in the classic sense, but if you spend time being educated here, you probably like podcasts. And I discovered a few months ago that there's no good way to find podcasts. And so my team and I built a whole search engine. It's essentially Google for podcasts. It's at marketingpodcasts.com, which just launched. We're having a big contest there right now to give away some amazing $600 earbuds and a bunch of other things. So if you get a chance, check it out. I think you guys will like it.
Actually, on that point, I have just this second made marketingpodcasts.com live in your Showcase app. So if you want to check that out.
Fantastic.
And if I remember correctly from having a look at this the other night, when you go onto Marketing Podcast to enter that competition, it's right at the top. It's a little top banner, right?
Yeah, hello bar. Yeah, a little bar at the top.
And I think, and this sort of freaked me out a little bit, Jay, which is, if I'm correct, these earbuds, they mold to your ear. Is that right?
Yeah, the same ones that like Lady Gaga uses and the Foo Fighters and John Mayer and all that. So they actually send you, the company we buy them from called Ultimate Ears, they send you like a kit, right, that has like some goop. That's the official industry term, and you pack it into your ear canal, and then it hardens in some way, and then you take those out, and then you ship that off to them, and then they custom make the earbuds to fit that, and so when you get them back a couple weeks later, I mean, it is literally, I mean, this is like what rock musicians use on stage. So talk about noise canceling. It's going to be amazing.
I'll tell you what, it's worth entering the competition. Because if you win, to be able to take that home to your husband and wife and say, hello, darling, tonight, would you mind filling my ear with goop?
We have said whoever wins, like, I'm not giving it to you unless you absolutely agree to do a video of the entire process. Like, that's going to be a precondition of the winner.
And it should be a vine, so it just goes round and round and round and round.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I think the contest closes Wednesday or something like that.
Oh man! All right. Well, look, marketingpodcast.com is live in the Showcase now. That way, sorry. And really, I mean, I brought that in purely because it brings us into Jason and Jay. Thank you so much, obviously, for your part on that. I really appreciate it. And
you bet. It's good to see you guys. I got to skate. Thanks so much.
No problem. Cheers, Jay.
Cheers.
Brings in Jason, Christ, the podcasting world. Where are we with it? How's it all going? I think it's going pretty well, right?
Yeah, well, curiously enough, it's a hard act to follow, of course, to come up behind Jay Baer and talk about podcasting, who, of course, Jay has a number of different podcasts, including video podcasts, and that is doing very well for him. When I had him on my show, On Track Tips, I interviewed him, and he was saying how that was getting, not many people are using video podcasts, particularly in iTunes, so it's kind of an easy area to kind of capture some ground. Another good friend of mine, Jeff C., with the Manly Pinterest Show, he just launched a video podcast, and it is doing fantastic over there for him. So there's a lot of room that you can pick up over there. But I'm not a professional podcaster. I'm not the person who has really focused and concentrated on that medium. But I like podcasting as a part of a holistic package if it fits your marketing strategy for your company. And it just happened to fit mine because I have On Track Tips show, and one of my big services that I provide for small businesses that I work with is a service called Repurpose Pro, where I help people take one piece of content like this Hangout on Air and turn it into multiple micro content. So we could take this half an hour, or your show is an hour. But we can, what I do with mine is a half an hour show, and I just spin that into a podcast and drop it out there, and so it works really great for that.
I think that's quite an interesting point, actually, because a lot of people don't realize. I mentioned earlier on, and I think Dustin is in the audience here, and he shared an article about using Hangouts, and I don't believe a lot of Hangout hosts and Hangout guests utilize Hangouts in that way, which is Ryan Hanley is a classic, where he uses the Hangout as the as the podcast builder, ostensibly. He takes the audio feed, as far as I'm aware, and take it out of it.
What's interesting is because with Ryan's story, he started out as a podcaster, exclusively doing his podcast through Skype, and then he came over to Hangouts on Air because he wanted to incorporate that live activity interaction within the Hangout on Air community, the G Plus community, which incorporates the comments in it, and so it is now audio-visual, and it has a whole new dynamic. It's interesting to talk to Ryan about how that the different dynamics of doing just a one-on-one Skype call versus doing live on air in front of people like we're doing here.
And so that's basically what repurposing is all about, right? It's about taking a single piece of content and reutilizing it elsewhere. Is that fair to say?
Well, okay. I want to go back to like a couple points that we made here in this show that everybody's making, and kind of some of the notes that I'm taking as we're kind of discussing here. We've talked about social media, we've talked about analytics, we've talked about with Jay and real estate in his book. Something that I see all the time is so many professionals, when we're talking professionals, real estate agents, plumbers, whatever your electricians, whatever your profession, they come onto social media and they try to be social media marketers instead of trying to be the expert in their industry. Right? How often do we see this? We see them coming in and curating content about how to share on Facebook, and instead of talking about their niche, their vertical, their thing that they're the expert in. So just like Jay was just saying, provide value, be the expert, give useful information, and people will be drawn and attracted to you. And so in terms of repurposing, when you want to put together a repurposed strategy, you have to think, what is the voice that I'm trying to convey? What is it I'm trying to talk about? Why am I doing this? I think a lot of people just go on cruise control and they just say, okay, it's really easy. I can just take an HOA and turn it into a podcast. It's very easy. Well, mechanically, it's very easy. But does it really make sense? Does it make sense from a marketing standpoint to take the effort and energy? Do you have the resources? Are you a single family, small business? And so now you're, why is it easy? Why is it useful? And why would I even want to embark upon a repurposed strategy?
I think, if I remember correctly, Ryan was saying that he takes his podcast, or his HOA, I should say, sorry, and he repurposes it in 8 different ways.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
One of them now, the latest, was using SoundCloud as a facilitator for the podcast, and then streaming that through LinkedIn as a blogging platform. Yeah,
that's really interesting. So just think about it. Once you have, like right here, we're doing all the legwork, right? Let me take an example of one of my clients. Okay, they're a small business. They do pipe inspections in Denver. I mean, what a bizarre niche, right? Pipe inspections, taking a video down into the pipe in the ground, and yet they want to try to get some traction on social. I mean, what can they talk about? They can talk about toilets. They can talk about underground pipes. I mean, who's really going to be interested in that kind of information? They can talk. So we have to find ways for them to generate content that's interesting and the kind of content that people are talking about. So they're not particular. He's out in the field all day long. He doesn't have a lot of time to be at home writing blogs, being on social. It's a mom and pop business. Mom's at home running the books. Dad's out doing the pipe inspections. So we had to think, what can we do to help them to be more active on social and win in a very competitive market, actually, there in Denver. There's about 5 different companies, and in terms of SEO, it's very competitive for them. So we start with these 3 to 5 minute HOAs, and we ask a specific question, a question that a customer might ask. What are the where does my pipe responsibility for my pipes end and the city's responsibility begin? Right? So we can come on, do a 3 to 5 minute hangout on air, ask that question, they answer the question, he's already an expert at it, so even if he's a little bit camera shy, even if he's not really good on air, he's talking about something he's passionate about. Then it's very easy for him to come in, do these 3 to 5 minute videos, you can knock out 4 to 5 of them in, say, an hour or 2 in the evening, he goes back to work. Now our team comes in and takes and can repurpose that into those, so now we can create, we can do podcasts. Of course, it automatically goes over to YouTube. We can optimize those descriptions. You embed it into a blog post. You can create, quotes from it, and there's just a number of different ways that. So now they don't have to be the content creator. You know what I mean? Because they don't have time to be the content creator per se. And it's very easy to outsource it and outsource your expertise to a company that doesn't have to try to do the research and try to become an expert on pipe inspection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I'll tell you what, the thing which makes the most sense out of all of that is the fact that my whole entire attitude to business has been that you find we call it the niche. We find your niche. And I've always said, well, once you found that niche, you then find the niche of that niche. Because from every aspect of content generation, SEO, social, whatever it might be, your audience might be smaller. But in terms of the engagement around that niche will be far greater than being very general about everything that's going out there.
Yeah, and the thing I see too is everybody tries. You come into social and you think you've got to be everywhere and in all places. I've got to be on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Google Plus, and it just gets so overwhelming, right? What people don't, I see so often, the noob, the early people that are just now getting into social media, the problem is they're not listening. They're broadcasting and not listening, and that's what's so wonderful about social media, especially Twitter and Google Plus with hashtags, and we can listen really well. We can find people or do what I like to call Twitter client mining or Google Plus client mining, and the tools are there, the search features are there, so we can find the people in such a tiny, hyper-specific niche like underground pipes in Denver. You know what I mean? We can actually go out and look at hashtags and what people are talking about and then reach out to those people individually instead of just trying to create all this content and be, curating other people's interesting stuff for the sake of getting pluses and shares and likes. You're actually becoming that expert. You're actually becoming the go-to person, by finding those people that are talking about and listening to those people that are going to be using your products and services.
Absolutely, and I tell you what, it's got very good parallels to what Jay was saying as well about how, as the expert, you produce the content that others will then read. And take that real estate guy who is basically saying to people, you don't need me. If you want to go and sell your house, read my entire ebook about how to sell your house yourself. And he's obviously getting all the information back. And to bring in, Nancy has just mentioned this here as well, saying teaching the benefits of anything. And I don't think this matters whether it's real estate or pipes. It's how to sell. It's the knowledge I get from a friend who's a good salesman. So it's giving that knowledge out there, which is going to help you in the long run. And to bring in, obviously we're a bit biased here about using HOAs, but bringing in Nick's comment here, HOAs are great for repurposing the content, podcasts, video snippets, timestamps, cute graphics, SlideShare. And Christ, Ryan Hanley doesn't do a great job with it all. So it's definitely the way forward. And what I was actually going to just bring in there, because we're running out of time a little bit here, is that one of the things that I know you guys have just brought out, because I wanted to mention it because I saw it yesterday and I loved it. And credit to you, Jason, is your little widget that I put in the showcase for everybody to see. Could you just explain that a little bit about increasing the shareability of content? Because I think that was a fantastic little tool you've got there.
Yeah, so if you've got a blog and you're on WordPress, you've got to listen up here, because what we've done is it's a partnership with myself, Dustin Stout, and Nicholas Cardot, and we together kind of looked at what are some of the vacancies that are in social sharing plugins today. What are some things that we can't do or that we have to use multiple plugins to accomplish? And so we kind of blended them all in together into one plugin. The plugin is called Social Warfare. You can find it at Warfare Plugins, and in fact, we have a coupon code for your audience today using the coupon Midweek Zap Midweek Marketing. And Nick, maybe you can, if you're listening, put that in the comment stream. But what this does is it does click to tweet, right, built right in, so that you can very easily write your own custom tweet, and then it will embed a click to tweet somewhere into your blog post very easily. You don't have to copy and paste and use the click to tweet, the feature, the program that's out there. Maybe you've seen it before, CTO. And you can also, what we love is the Pinterest, right? Pinterest, how many people have a long horizontal image on the top of your blog, right? And then when you go to pin it to Pinterest, it just looks awful. It gets cropped off on the edges and it doesn't look good. So we thought, well, how great would it be if we could actually put in our own custom Pinterest size, which is more the tower size, which was traditionally, what was it, like 600 to 800. There's new dimensions on it, but anyway. So now when somebody clicks that image, you get the exact image that you want for Pinterest. You could write your own custom Pinterest information, so you're not relegated to the first 3 lines of of your blog post, which oftentimes never sounds good. So there's a lot of features in there that I can go on and on and on and talk about, but it's certainly worth taking a look at.
I second that. I had a look at it and just went, right, do I bring this in, do I not bring it in? And I wanted to because I thought it was an absolutely fantastic tool. And so do others. Nicholas Carter, whoop, whoop. But look, seriously, guys, get in there and have a little look at what these guys have done. And funny enough, I picked up on the Pinterest stuff as well because as far as I'm concerned, being able to put in your own photo that you want to bring in rather than just having something stuck in, I think it's absolutely...
Yeah, and let me say one more thing, James. It's 100% guarantee. You don't like it, tell us. I don't like it. It didn't work for me. Fine, give me my money back. No problem. We're that confident that this plugin is exactly what you've been looking for that we're willing to put that guarantee on it. So
cool stuff.
Just test it out. Test it out. And let us know. Give us your feedback.
And what I also say, I don't normally do this in a show, so it's one of those things, but it's worthwhile. Nicholas Carter just put in this. So midweek marketing, 20% off, expires Friday at midnight. So well worth if you want to try that. I think it was $17, right? Is that how much it is for the coding and everything?
Yeah, for the beta it was 17, but we had to bring it up now that we've launched it live. So we're still kind of I don't know exactly what the guys decided on that. So forgive me, they didn't brief me. That decision was made just yesterday. So, but I think it's 24 now. It's not a lot more.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, look, we're having a little look on there as well. Alrighty, well, look, I just want to mention in here, so Kath Dawson, as always, hi, Kath, welcome here. Getting fired up to investigate your podcast, Jason T. Wazza. Your enthusiasm is infectious. Stuff. And I think there's Kim. I haven't mentioned any of your comments coming in, but I mean, great example. Pipe Inspector is challenging to engage in content. Christ Almighty, is it? One of my first ever clients I had was a pest controller. And I was thinking, how on earth do you talk about killing rats? I mean, it's such a tricky one to do. But her hashtag I thought was particularly pertinent, which is teach better, sell more as a hashtag. And like she says, there's a massive parallel there between what you said and what Jay said. So look, I'm gonna end that there today. I haven't got time to bring in any of the sort of the big high tech stuff and stories which are kicking around. I know Lee, you put a question in there about virtual reality a little bit earlier on. I'll answer that separately in a stream. Suffice to say one thing about that, which is virtual reality. The Samsung Gear VR is just being released now as a developer kit, and that's exciting. You can stick a Note 4 akin to this as a phone in the back of a virtual reality headset. It's coming out in time for Christmas. Very, very exciting. So look, I am going to leave you with one thing, which is Kim's comment from earlier on. And damn, my comment tracker has just failed me at the last minute. But she basically went, LOL, hashtag Movember, and a freedom to Slack. She doesn't know. Honestly. Us men, I tell you what, to have a mustache for an entire month. There you go. What do we got on there? Ursula, what's she going to check out Social Warfare now? There you go. All right. Well, look, for those of you who want to do Movember, follow Grant's lead with that beard, right? I mean, Grant, that's an awesome beard you got going on. Have you got any sort of final things for you to say, Grant, in terms of calls to action for this week?
I think it was a great show. I think the themes of the show were very much there, which is about it's about giving. And actually, it was just interesting. The one thing I would say to people is before you get share of wallet, you need share of time. And what social media and what social platforms allow you to do is engage people with and get their time. But you only get that by giving value. As Jay said, as Jason has said, it's all about giving value. There's lots of ways we've discussed how you do that.
Not share of wallet, share of time. There you go. Another little quip and a quote from Grant, which obviously are fantastic. And two final things to finish. Kath Dawson, I'm going to get me a fancy hinge for my mic like yours there, Jason. She's got hinge envy, which is a bit worrying. Anything else to finish on from you, Jason, before we disappear off?
I would just say to everybody, whether it's you're building a website, whether you're doing social media, whether you're doing pay-per-click, whatever it is you're doing, ask yourself why before you do it. Everybody will tell you have to have a website, you have to be on social, and you have to have, pay attention to your analytics. But when you can answer the question why, then you're going to be so much more effective in your marketing. Why do I need a website? What is it going to do for me? Why do I need to be on social? What can it do for me?
Absolutely, wise of words. Alrighty, and then just a final one. Sarah, thank you so much for your feedback. Another superb show. Thank you so much. In fact, we are the show that likes to finish with less guests than what we start. I must annoy them so much that Jay's disappeared off. We then lose Jim again. Jim managed more than 20 seconds this time. I'm determined next time I have him on the show for him to last the entire show. But maybe next time. Guys, thanks ever so much for your time. Everybody watching, thank you ever so much again. I hope that was of worth for you. 2 weeks' time, we've got another show coming on, and I hope you'll join me for that one. So, it should be some great guests coming on. So, thanks for your time. Much appreciated. See you next time.
See you later, James.